Hello and welcome to yet another exciting podcast of the Awanachi Conversations. These are conversations that count. We profile different women as they share their stories in different aspects of life. I am super excited that on this week's podcast, I will be talking to an amazing lady. Her name is Patricia Luhanga. She's a public relations and communications expert. Patricia, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor for me to be here today.
Yeah.
And for me, Awanachi is a family affair.
Yes.
Because my sister Mpunga runs this and absolutely amazing programs that you've put across. And we just pray for the best out of this, and that even as we have these conversations, they're going to touch one or two people out there.
An amazing lady you are, Patricia, and I don't say it, just for people to say, oh yes, she's amazing. I've experienced your growth from the many years I've known you, and I must state also, thank you for being such a solid support on Awanachi. We know that we can always call on you, and you always show up to support us. We just pray that we can be the same to you as well. So thank you so much, even for coming through today. So, Patricia, somebody would be watching, and probably they've seen you at a distance, usually announcing elections. I think that was a defining moment for you.
Yeah.
Could you just take us through your life's journeys? Your childhood, where you were born, to this Patricia powerhouse that we are seeing and privileged to have on the Awanachi Conversations today.
Thank you, Mpunga. When people are speaking powerhouse, and when I have to relate that to my background, I'm like, okay, so there's a shift that has happened.
Absolutely.
Well, I think for me, I grew up in the northern province of Zambia. So in particular, Mporokoso, Kasama, Chinsali, Mpika.
Wow.
So
wow.
The funny thing is, I'm Tumbuka, but I know Bemba better than if.
Can you imagine I'm getting this today about you being Tumbuka? Because you're Bemba.
You know my Bemba is
it's
top notch like that.
Right.
So I grew up in those districts. My mother was a nurse, and at some point she served in rural health centers. So that meant growing up in a rural area, but also not from a privileged sort of environment. For those that have heard my story before, I'm coming from a broken family where my parents divorced when I was quite young. I was in grade 1 then. Oh, wow. My young brother was only 3 months old when our parents divorced. And so it was just growing up with a mother. I don't even know what it is to experience growing up with a father. But I'm not lamenting because there's a reason why I'm here today. If God really wanted us to grow up with a father, it could have been automatic that we had a father. But he gave us a very strong mother, very strong personality, very supportive, who regrettably died when I was in grade 11. And I think for me, the grounding that I got growing up with her is what has made me to be who I am today. My mother was very hardworking. She was a nurse. The four of us, with my siblings, she managed to take us to very reasonable schools, And what she did then, before we even knew what a side hustle was, she used to knit a lot for babies. She was a nurse, a midwife for that matter. So she targeted those mothers who were expecting. And so she should get orders to do the showers, everything like that. And she was keeping that money to supplement our education. She also did quite a lot of gardening, where we didn't have to buy vegetables, for instance. And so growing up in that environment really just sort of gave us a grounding to obviously thrive in our education. And speaking in terms of education, of course, I did my primary in Mporokoso, partly in Kasama. We didn't stay long in Kasama, moved to Chinsali. Then I went to Litkila Girls in Mpika. And thereafter, did my tertiary education. I have qualifications in international relations, mass communication, as well as financial journalism at specialization level. That's at master's level. But I've also had experience working in mainstream media, and I think my whole life has been in public relations. And it's been quite a journey, really, if we begin now to look at that.
Yeah.
But I've also had the privilege really of getting my recognition in the sense that these are things that I do not take for granted.
Yeah.
I got a Chevening scholarship. This is like a one-off.
That's huge.
thing that happened. Of course, it happened at a time at one of the lowest points of my life, and God just came through for me, and I got that scholarship. I've also been recognized by the US government when I was given the International Leadership Program, which is their premier professional program to go and learn the experiences in the United States. I have been honored to be the PR Personality of the Year by the Zambia Institute of Public Relations for 2021. I have been recognized by 9 to 5 among the 100 career women on the continent. And so even Accenture Business Engage, where I got positive role model, as well as in public service. So it's been a mix of everything. So the growing up side, where it wasn't really too good, but you look back to that, you're like, oh, okay,
amazing.
Here we are.
Amazing. Now you've talked about the many awards, and I know you personally, and I know if there's one thing that you do, Patricia, is to work hard and work smart as well. Could you take us through in terms of your work experience? I know that you have experience in the financial space, in the water sector. Just take us through this Luitikila girl, graduating from Luitikila to get to where you are now as corporate affairs manager at the Electoral Commission of Zambia.
Really interesting. I started out in mainstream media, working for a community radio station called Radio Mano in Kasama. And I can assure you, when I was transitioning to go to Kasama, I was here in Lusaka. And I remember quite a lot of voices like, Kumushi, hey, how can you go to the village? Why don't you stick around and look for something? But I think we are wired differently. For me, it was about what opportunities lie for me, even in that village. And if you look at the trajectory that I have taken in terms of my professional growth, it started from there. So I landed as a reporter. Before I knew it, the board said, can she run news and current affairs as head? And I'm thinking, that was like going to be my first management role. And I was very raw then. What are the lessons from there? I think I might have messed up quite a bit of things, because this is why I think today I do not look at a position as something that I should wear. A position is just a privilege you've been given. So whether you carry this title, I think then it was about how people should see that I'm in charge of news and current
the boss.
affairs. But I think as I progressed into public relations, and by the way, when I worked in that radio station, I used to anchor quite a lot of programs, one of which was for Chambeshi Water and Storage Company then. When you're on the other side, you're the one firing the questions. You find it very easy to do that. So when they had a vacancy, in fact, they had just created the role of PR, they reached out to me and said, is this something you'd be interested in? I had no idea then. What does this even mean? And in fact, then, if you remember Mpunga, the PR then was just about media relations.
Yes.
And
that
they
was
told
PR,
me,
enough PR.
Yes. So they told me, this is what you do. You know the right questions to ask us. Why don't you come on the other side and deal with the issues? Of course, I went through an interview, and I remember we were 15 in total.
Oh, that was quite a lot.
It was quite a lot. And went in the workspace. And of course, I was quite young then. I was 23 years old. And that meant getting into a position where I found people that were way older than me that had junior positions. But I think for me, some of them positioned themselves as parents, others like my elder brothers and sisters. Others didn't even want me. The issue was she's too young and she can't be supervising us. But I was more inclined to those that were very receptive, and I learned the ropes from them. In fact, when our plumbers were going in the field, I would ask how their schedule looked like, and I would tag along just for me to learn, because then I learned if I have to communicate, then it should be from an informed point of view.
Right.
So imagine there's a problem, and you're simply talking about, no, we don't have water supply. For me, I wanted to know, so what size of the pipes are getting water from the intake into the distribution line up to the customer line. So those are the things that they taught me. And just by looking at a pipe, I can tell, oh, this is 4-inch, this is 6-inch.
I love that.
And I learned from there. So when I go on radio, TV, I was sounding very smart. To an extent where one of the CEOs in the water sector came just for like some sort of exchange visit.
Yeah.
They were having challenges with water supply quality. And there was no one then to take him round. So the person who was acting MD says, you know these things, you just take the boss. So I went with him, but I think he wasn't even really sure.
Yeah.
When we went in the field, so, you know, I even knew the capacity, the pumping capacity from all those pumps that were at the intake and things like that. So he asked me a question, are you an engineer? I was like, far from it, sir, I'm not. He looked at me and said, you don't need to be here. I think you need to move. You need to move to somewhere. Come and join Mulonga Water. It sounded like a joke.
Wow.
Before I knew it, they
You were
advertised for the position of PR manager. I didn't even have the qualifications they were looking for, but I applied. I was just like, let me give it a try. So I went for the job interview, and I remember I was the first person, and they asked me, we are asking for someone with a degree. You have a diploma.
Yeah.
Why did you apply? I said, unless you tell me it's not worth trying. So here I am, I'm just trying.
Yeah.
You could see the eyes around the room. So fast forward, they called me and said, oh, okay, we didn't give you the position of PR manager, but if you're willing to come, there's a position of PR officer that we have gotten permission from the board to create, and this is for you. I was like, why not? I've not even worked under somebody, so I'll come so that I learn the ropes. So that was me in the water sector. 9 years. Transitioned, went into banking sector. In one bank I didn't last, went back to school, came back, went into another bank. And after that, transitioned to Electoral Commission of Zambia. So
the big move.
Yeah, that's basically like my work experience. The reason I really dealt with like the gradual process from the background is that people need to just know where I started from.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to mask and put this Patricia of today. The Patricia of today is as a result of, you know, that community radio station where people said, you're going to the village. And then the problematic Chambeshi Water and Storage Company then where it was really hectic. So, here
amazing story. Now, can you share a pivotal moment, Patricia, or realization that influenced your decision to make the leap into public relations, coming from journalism? Like you've rightly said, at that point you don't have the experience and probably don't have the qualification. Could you just share that aspect with us?
So one thing about me is that I'm a risk taker.
Clearly.
You know, I believe in trying things. I'm not a person you can come to and say, this cannot be done or this is difficult. And I think that's why you can see the transition. Even when I transitioned from banking to where I currently work in elections, I had so many voices that said, are you mad? How? And in this period, why didn't you wait, or why didn't you stay where you are? So I think for me, it was about trying something different. And remember, the PR then that we thought of was, I'll just be appearing on TV. Just speaking English, going on radio. We didn't even know there's a strategic function to this, but it has also come because of the evolution.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was about trying this thing that nobody else wanted to go into. I knew right from the word go that I am crossing to the other side where I'll be in the firing range. Whereas I'm the one who's asking questions now, those questions will be directed at me. So it was a leap of faith, but it was also about taking risks to say what else is on the other side. But it's also about learning. What else can I learn? If I am just going to incline myself to be in mainstream media, is this what I'm looking for? And for me, the opportunity came early than, you know, somehow for some of my colleagues. A year in mainstream media, the next opportunity comes knocking on your door. And obviously, it was also about the pecs, because at the end of the day, what they offered
The numbers,
me, yes, looked good. And I was like, why not? Whether we like it or not, we all love, those high pecs. So I had to transition and see what else was on the other side. And for me, Mpunga, the issue is, let me go in there and try. If I fail, I can always find a way out, rather than not trying. And then I realize, oh my goodness, this is something I should have tried.
Yeah. Now, I like the fact that you clearly state that you're a risk taker. But during those moments, or at the time you're having a conversation with yourself as to whether, for you to make the transition, how did you deal with the uncertainties, the self-doubt, the thinking, what if this doesn't work? I say so because research has shown that women deal with a lot of self-doubt, and this has been proven by research. You gave an example of you putting in an application despite not having the qualification for Mulonga, but you will find that in most cases, men will apply even if they don't have the qualification. For ladies, just the fact that you don't have the qualification, you'll be like, no, I can't even apply. I don't even meet half of these requirements. How did you manage that stage of still staying, despite the uncertainty, despite the self-doubt or whatever negative scenario you're dealing with, to still step out and say, I want to get on with this?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's been a phase, Mpunga. I've had a fair share of self-doubt. The self-doubt that is not programmed by me, but because of what other people are saying about me. So I've had moments where they've said, oh, she's young. No, she can't be my boss. Oh, she's a woman after all. No, but women are just emotional. What sort of decision making can she even make? Then those others who just tell you, oh, we've been here longer than you. What can you tell us? Things are always done in this way. But I've also had people that have said, you're not good enough. And they're saying you're not good enough in your face, When I weigh the two, the self-doubt for me is what others have said about me. And I am personally a fighter. And I usually tell people this story. I had to start off as a maid. I started off as a maid. That was my first job.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, for me, is what is it that I can do that can push me to the next level? So you get into this space, and then somebody tells you you're not good enough. For me, as an individual, I begin to look back and ask myself questions. Where are you coming from? You're that child that never even had the privilege of wearing shoes. You are that child that grew up fetching firewood. You are that child who didn't have what others had in school. You worked as a maid. Look how far you've come. Can you just give up now because somebody has told you you're not good enough? You fought all this while. And once those things begin to trigger in, then I know it's a moment for me to stop. I've had moments where I've cried, and I tell people, it's okay. We are emotional beings. You'll be told things. But what do you do after crying? You begin to wipe your tears. You begin to clean yourself up. So the self-doubt for me has been dealt with by looking where I'm coming from. What I've been able to deal with, the things I have navigated. Sometimes alone, because when I lost Mom, that was like the end.
Wow.
For me, and to have her as a breadwinner, the question was, what next in my life? You think the world has closed for you. Even when the world seemed to have closed. And because you go and knock on people's doors, this is, maybe let me just get a job in a shop. Nobody's opening that door. The next was, okay, let me just begin as a maid. And I had people who said, oh, with these qualifications, you've got a distinction at grade 12, and then your friends are going into university. The question is, what am I taking into university if I am given 75% bursary and I can't even find the 25%? So you look back and how you raised money through that journey of just starting out as a maid, the commitment that I put in. And by the way, I tell people that I thank God for my mother, because We didn't have a privileged life where you have maids in your home. You wash for yourself. You cook for yourself. You clean for yourself. Guess what I was doing when I was a maid? I was simply doing that job.
The very same thing.
And it was very easy because then the training had already happened and I did my job diligently. To an extent where the woman I worked for said, no, we need to find something better for you. So when self-doubt begins to kick in, ask yourself those questions. But there's also a moment when, I saw Led Norena on TV, by the way. Then she was working, I think, for Finance Bank. I'm like, this woman, she's so amazing. And the way she's speaking.
Yeah.
Me, if I have an opportunity, I'm just going to meet her. Then I was on the copper belt. And then, as God will have his way, I found myself in Lusaka. And I sent her a message. How did I send it? I don't know if it was on Facebook. And her being her, she responded. And she created time for me. She says, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here. And I had to pour out things. And coincidentally, the week that I met Lady Norena is the week that I lost my job at one of the banks.
Wow.
So she was strategically coming in my life at a time such as that.
The workings
And
of God.
she's a mentor. And she's not just a mentor from anywhere, but her backing is always from the spiritual perspective. And so that was like the person I would always go to. And sometimes she would tell you, I would shut myself out. For even a month, I've not spoken to anybody because I'm trying to figure myself out. What is it that I'm going to do? So the self-doubt that we have, let's learn to ask for help. If you can't remind yourself where you're coming from, if that is not giving you enough comfort, get a super supportive system that will help you to just sort of navigate. I usually say growth does not happen in isolation. You will have people that have to hold your hand for you to reach certain levels. So when you get into that trajectory, then you can start applying for those jobs where even if I am not too qualified, or I'm still qualified, but like you said, it's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
For the men, they'll go in. And just say it. Yeah. So when you have people that can say, you can do this, you can do that, you're like, oh, okay. Start gaining the confidence from there.
And just to ask, to what extent has your faith in God contributed to the strides that you have made? The self-doubt, because sometimes I tend to think that self-doubt could be coming from a place where we begin to just look at what I can do, what I can do, what Mpunga can do, what Patricia can do, but forgetting about God, that in all that, it is, when all is said and done, God is in the story. God is in the detail.
Yeah.
So could you share with us how your faith in God has been a factor in your progression? You just shared an amazing story of you starting out as a maid. And that's what I love about you, Patricia. You are ready to just put it out there. Some people would hide that aspect and say, no, we're not going to bring up this part of our history. But please do share with us.
So you see, I tell people that we should present ourselves the way we are. There's no way I should be masking myself now. You should only see the Patricia, the current Patricia. That is why you find that the people that look up to us think it's very easy to be where Patricia is. I can just be. And unfortunately for me, I realized the only story I think that was more amplified about me was the UK and the NatSev and the ECZ. And, somebody even went to an extent of, calling me, these are some of us children that were trained in the UK. I'm like,
I wish
I'm
you
like,
knew.
Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So I think for me, getting back to the question that you've asked, growing up, I used to go to Sunday school. I was a member of Girls Brigade, and I think then it was just a matter of memory verses and the like. Life hit me hard at some point when I was now struggling to make a decision. Do I leave Lusaka and go to Kasama? Where I was staying at my auntie's place, there was the main house and 2 flats. So the people who were in the main house one of the girls there was really a firm believer. She was a born-again Christian. And she kept telling me, no, you should visit our church one day. I'm just like, yeah, I will come. Until I think I didn't realize I was moving with a headache for about 3 months. I accompanied my friend to the hospital. And out of, because I grew up in medical personnel's home, I was like, yeah, I haven't done my medical checkups in a very long time. I think, let me just check my BP out of fun. The nurse looked at me and said, at your age, your blood pressure is very high. I'm like, no, it can't be me. Says, no. Let's wait. We waited for an hour. Still, it was high. So they started asking me, what are you going through? How are you feeling? Then I realized I've been moving with this headache for a very long time. And I was being asked, what's your problem? I said, I'm looking for a job. That nurse said, you see, in the midst of all this, remember there is a God in heaven.
Wow.
It was a Friday. Saturday, I sat quietly in the house. And I remember in the evening, I went and knocked on the door of our tenant, and I said, her name is Mwamba Meki. Mwamba, I'm ready to tag along to church tomorrow, but I don't even have money for transport. She says, that's not a problem. I have the money. Oh, go. The message for that particular day, you would think Mwamba has told the pastor that Patricia is coming. This is what she's going through. The message was, I told her, if anything else, it was mine. And I said, if I can come to a place where God is ministering to me through people that understand my situation, that's it. For me, Mpunga, that was the breaking point. And since then, I have not looked back, because now I had to go through baptism again. I was baptized when I was a baby, but I had to start taking the baby steps in the things of God. Because I had to do my elementary studies, discipleship, all those things. And from there, that is where I have built a firm foundation on my trust on God. Today, when I look back, there's nothing about me. It's all about God. I asked myself a question, if my mother was alive, would I have been where I am? The answer definitely is no, because there would have been a path that would have been curved. I wasn't going to end up as a maid. That's a fact. I would have gone another trajectory. But are you sure you would say God does not exist? He knew everything else. He had curved that path. And for me, that is why whatever I go through, I look back and I say, it's God. And by the way, I was in Chinsali, where I grew up from, in March. And I met some of Mom's friends and people that saw me growing up. You know what they were saying? 3 people telling me, you are the epitome of the very existence of God.
Wow.
We look back when your mom left you. My young brother, the last born, was in grade 1. He had just turned 6 in grade 1. And it was just the 4 of us. And people looked and said, Abba, what is going to happen to them? So they see us today. And if they can point God in your life, hey, it can only be him. So for me, the grounding has really, it was by mistake somehow, that's what I say. But there's nothing coincidental about God. He had it all planned out. And I just had to fall in. And I usually say, thank God for that lady, Mwamba. She was really somebody that was sent in my life at the right time. And since then, I've never looked back.
Wow. So you won't believe that I'm being told that we should be winding down. I honestly think you and I have just started. The more reason we should have a part 2 Awanachi conversation with you. But probably just as a way of winding up, Patricia, you have shared your amazing story about where God has brought you from to where you are now. What would you say are some of the values, just maybe 3 for now, for purposes of the conversation, 3 values that you strongly believe have played a role in getting you to where you are now?
I think for me, the first one will be authenticity. I don't believe in pretending or masking who I am, where I'm coming from. And by the way, I usually laugh about this when I tell people, I only spent a year in the UK. And when I came back, apparently somebody knew that I went to the UK, and they're like, "You're the only person who studied in the UK and you don't have an accent." I was short of the accent in one year.
No.
This is me. Don't expect me to have an accent. And even then, I was speaking to my relatives back home almost every day in Bemba. So don't expect me just because I'm in this environment, then my accent should change. And that is why, even in this discussion, I've presented myself as, this is me.
Yeah.
If you have to like me with all my, my maidsips, the fetching of firewood to where I am today. I really believe in the power of authenticity. But I also believe in being transparent. I've been transparent in my operations. I'm one person who, if I'm struggling, I will tell my circle, not everybody, of course. I will tell my circle, I'm struggling in this area. I don't have this. Please help me. And in that, because I say asking for help is not a sign of weakness. You're just saying, look, I also have my own limitations. Let me ask someone to help me deal with issues that I'm going through. The other value that I would really talk about is about teamwork. Regardless of how you look at teamwork starts even in the family. I saw the way Mom struggled to be the only person to deal with family issues, because she was like the only person that would do that. I think for me, growing up, I've even told my siblings that we cannot afford to be isolated or do things independently. Yes, there are those things you can do independently, but it's important for us to come together as a family to be able to deal with certain situations. And so you find, if my brother is going through stuff, I'll call my sister. It will be a conference call. This is what this person is going through. How are we going to resolve this? But you even see that the teamwork extends even to the workplace. You cannot be an oasis of knowledge yourself.
You know everything.
No. And if you are the only smart person in the room, like they say, then there's a problem. And I've also learned that even the lowest person who cleans your office has got some value they can place on you. So I actually believe that we can, wherever we find ourselves, we can be a team, and, together with those different hands, different heads, we'll be able to achieve so much more than what one head or these two hands can achieve.
Totally love that. Authenticity, transparency, and teamwork. Well, Patricia, it's a pity we have to go, but like we have agreed, we'll have a part 2 with Patricia to just delve into a lot more, because really time has just literally flown past. I have no doubt that whoever will get a chance to watch this podcast will be inspired, will be reminded that they are being seen, that they are being heard, and that what might look like challenges now are basically God's way of preparing us for the future. So thank you so much for taking time to be part of our conversation today. We look forward to hosting you in a future podcast to come and chat a bit more.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so there you have it. I've been talking to Miss Patricia Luhanga, who's a public relations and communications specialist. Time definitely wasn't our ally today, but we look forward to hosting her in a future podcast so we can just chat a bit more about her work as a career woman, but specifically delving into issues of public relations and communications. I've been your host, Mpunga Chipepo Simukwai. Do join me next time. Goodbye and God bless.